I've been thinking quite a lot about adding whimsy and quirkiness to my home. Most of the reference I go and see and I like are things that I feel are unique and handmade and preferably very colorful, also crooked a little bit. What I think I'm trying to say is I want to add more handmade, unique touches to my home. One of the central room and spaces in my house is the dining table, which is the kitchen and the dining room are the same room, and it's exactly in the same room as the sofa and the entranceway, and it's just one big room, all right? But I have this very big table. When I bought it, I was incredibly happy to have a big table where I could craft and dine and entertain people, have guests. But I soon find out that there aren't any tablecloth for this size of table. So of course I had to make my own, buy some really nice fabrics that turn them into tablecloth. And that is all right, but it's still missing that handmade element, that quirkiness, that whimsiness, that something. And that's what I plan to do in this project. So, we have this very specific tablecloth, which is a lovely shade of green. This is my favorite kind of green, this sage. I think the one I like is a little bit more vibrant, but I love this one nonetheless. And it's a heavy cotton that I bought in Japan, during my trip to Japan. And I made a lovely, lovely tablecloth. I'm so proud of the corners that I made for this. But then I have not used it yet, because it's such a simple tablecloth that when I have guests, I usually put out something a bit more fancy or a bit more colorful, depending on the occasion. And this one is just a bit dull, being just a plain color. So I want to add some embroideries to it. This is my design. I'm an embroidery artist. I've been teaching embroidery for 5 years, 6 years and counting. One thing I say during my workshop when people ask me, what shall I do with embroidery? I always tell them, the first thing you can do is start in your own house, looking at plain objects and adding some pizzazz to them with embroidery. So my plan of action is I want to embellish this with some leaves, since it has this gorgeous color. So I want to draw a kind of leaf thing, stencil. Then I want to draw it on the tablecloth, spaced out. And then I want to embroider it, I'm thinking with a running stitch, so it won't take me too long of time. I really hope this is not foreshadowing for something horrible to happen. Yeah. As you can see from this lovely point of view, two things are very clear. One is I don't iron my tablecloth, and the second one is I was very, very, very precise with my measurement for my table and with the height of this fabric roll, because this is what's falling off the table. So my first plan was embroidering the leaves on the fabric that falls off the table. And my first plan, it's already gone. I must ask myself, do I want the embroidery to be a little bit on the table and a little bit off the table? I don't know if that would be like dangerous. When you dine at a table, you have knives and forks and plates, and you have your hands on your table a lot, the knee part of the arm. Your elbows are on your table a lot. And so maybe having something embroidered right in front of you might be something that doesn't resist the passing of time and just gets worn out and then becomes ugly. But I also love to mend, so like maybe that's something I can keep in mind. I'm literally thinking that if I align them correctly, they might be incredibly cute on the corner of the table, which would mean I only have to embroider 4. But maybe if I can also have them between a guest and the other. Is that insane? Or is that like really smart? Maybe I have to really center the tablecloth before doing any of this. Ooh, nope. Well, it is right, but it is not right. If I have 5 on this side and 8 on that side, does that mean I have to pull it? But how much? I have 8. If I go to 7, there's 6. If I go to 6.5, that's 6.5. Why do I have to work with half measurements? Why? One would really believe that in a crafty video you would get to the craft, like you would craft. But nope, we are trying to center a tablecloth. Okay, everything is 6.5. It doesn't make any sense because I have all these all these folds that I should press if I want to take actual good measurements. It is 6.5 all the way. Yes, it is 6.5 and 6.5. So if I go to 6.5 over here and over here, oh my God, we might be good to go. Okay, this is almost everywhere 6.5 centimeters. Yes. Okay, now what I will do is I will try to put the stencil on the corner of each corner. Shabdam! This took me so long and I still have to start embroidering. Anyway, almost an hour later, I have drawn 8 branches, pieces of leaf thingies, and I think the pen ran out of ink throughout because the last one are almost invisible. But that's alright, I placed them, I traced them, I have the stencils, so if I can't see them when I need to embroider them, I will just retrace them. So yeah, time to grab a needle, some thread, and go embroider. I've been debating whether or not to make the branches all in the same color of the same embroidery floss. And I thrifted this lovely vintage thing that when I bought it had embroidery floss on the inside, and unfortunately not all these colors are like my palette, the ones I reach for and use, but there are some greens here in the corner, and I just think that it would honor them to make a tablecloth with those. And I have two shades of vintage thread. This one is a little bit more vibrant, while this one a little bit less, and I do believe they both work pretty well with the tablecloth. But I did went into my stash and also picked up a darker color, and I actually think that the darker color is the one that works best. What do you think? I honestly don't know. Maybe I have to think this one out and like let things sit for a while. I think I'm gonna ask for help. Ask for other people's opinions. I think this is the one I'm gonna go with. It's from the vintage case, so it has that hidden story and meaning for me. I'm kind of scared. This should be the exciting part of the process, but somehow I'm a bit scared of starting and I don't know, not liking it. It being too messy, or I don't know, the color feeling off, the position, Anyway, for these vintage threads, as I understood from using them and making many mistakes, you can't pull as you would for a normal embroidery floss from the number side because they are twisted differently, and they are also tied with a thread and floss. Yeah. So you actually have to cut it open. And once you cut it, those are actually the two ends of this thread. Let's pick up a big embroidery needle. I'm gonna start with a corner one. I actually think I'm gonna do all the corner ones first, then I'm gonna see how it looks on the table, and if I'm pleased with it, maybe I'm gonna leave it at that, or if I think I can add more pizzazz to it, then I will, and I'm gonna embroider the other ones. I really don't care about the back side of this, so I think I'm gonna keep it knotty, so I will allow myself to make knots on the end of the thread. And also I'm not gonna use an embroidery hoop because this fabric is very sturdy, so I think I can manage with just my hands, but time will tell. I don't think my stitches are gonna be of an even length. I'm really just going with the flow. I think this is gonna be... I want this to be a tablecloth that I can use, and even if it gets like dirty or spotted, I'm not gonna be, oh no, I spent hours on that. I literally got up for a second to take some crackers, and here's what happened. Excuse me, that's my tablecloth.
life, try something, then take on another opinion, reflect on that, rather than being like, I'll eat from it, or that's not, which I think is actually something we should unpack later in the video, because I want to talk, recognizing that we are the first generation of people change over time. You can't fight today with the swords so that they can remain, I imagine, somewhat sane. Anyway.
The first one is done. It took me 40 minutes-ish. I was still trying to get a good flow. But the thing is, I mean, evening came, so it's a bit dark, but can you even see it? I think since I wanted to do something subtle, now it's just green thread on green fabric, and so I said I wanted something quirky, some pizzazz, some... I don't know if this is it, because I love it. I love the feeling of it, the texture when you pass your hand on it, but you really can't see anything. So I'm thinking of maybe switching to a lighter thread. I'm gonna think about this for the evening and reconvene tomorrow. It's been actually a day and a half. I decided to take some time to think a little bit more about this project. There's a whole leaf hand embroidered, hand stitched on this piece of cloth, and you can't see it. And I do think that goes a little bit beyond purpose. Like, you know, when you make a decorative stitch on something, you are kind of meant to see it. So I went back to the drawing board as I went back to my stash of thrifted vintage floss, and I got out this. This is the same kind of embroidery floss that I was using before, but this is a lovely beige, this lovely ivory color. And I'm really thinking that this will make the design pop a little bit more. So I'm gonna keep this one stitched as is, and I'm just gonna make another one with some of this ivory thread, and we are gonna see how it comes out. I've been struggling a bit when pulling the thread because it just slips off my fingers, and while I was in Japan I bought this, which, don't ask me why, but they sell this at stationery stores. I don't know, but I saw them on an Instagram story of an artist I follow, which is Book, lovely artist, and they were using them to help them not slip the needle off their fingers, but hold them between these. They are like silicone thingies you put on your fingers. And I got them in 2 sizes because I use one of them for my index finger and one of them for my thumb, like this. I finished the first leaf with the ivory stitch, and I'm thinking you can see it a bit better. It's not incredibly noticeable, but it's more noticeable than the green one. I really like it, so I'm gonna embroider the next one and see where we go from there. I'm still leaving the green one on. I'm going to be honest, I don't hate this, but I don't love it either. I think when you see it IRL, it still has that lovely texture and, well, you can put your hands on it and not be afraid it's gonna get ruined since it's just a simple running stitch. But when I try to take photos or videos of it, it's just doesn't show as much as I would like, but that's all right since, I mean, it is something for me, so I really hope to use this. And as for the last corner, well, it was the first corner, the one I made with the green thread, it is the one that really does not show. And I believe if I would have done all the different leaves in different colors, this would be like, all right, but since all the other one are in ivory and just this one is in green, it is kind of weird. And so I think I'm gonna rip this out, and since it's a running stitch, I will be able to keep the thread and use it for other projects. And I'm gonna stitch this one again. I'm gonna make this and then I'm gonna press this, iron this, which is gonna be hell because it's incredibly hot. But I'm gonna do it for you and for me because I wanna see this finished. And that's gonna be our tablecloth. Let's go. If you could not tell, I am not a great master of the iron. I think this came out pretty sweet. As I said, it's a little bit subtle and it doesn't show as much on camera, but I swear IRL it's very nice. Yeah, I can't press fabrics apparently, and my iron is very old, but I'm alright with this. I really am. And I'm not the one that comes into a home and be like, why aren't your tablecloths all pressed? Yeah, I'm not that kind of person. So I'm like, I love your tablecloth. Yeah, I can't wait to use this, and I hope friends and family, when they come around, will like this. I can't wait to make other projects, hand make other crafts to make this house feel even more like a home. If you like this video, you can find many more about fiber arts on my channel, and I really hope to see you in the next one. Bye!